We've got to start with denial. That's the first point of reference. This ain't a three-step program, but denial that Joseph Parker won the fight. He said neither of them did anything. Neither of them won. Well, that's not true. The only people who believe Wilder won are LDBC. They're the only ones who think he won. He said he's a much better fighter than Joseph Parker. Well, that didn't manifest in the ring, and Parker has a better resume than Wilder. He's not acknowledging what happened in the fight by saying, well, nothing much happened. Maybe he didn't see the 8th round. Even if it was a tight fight, which it wasn't, the 8th round, I believe, was scored at 10-8 by at least one of the judges. Denial is, Joseph Parker is such a nice guy. If anyone could beat me, I'd let him beat me 1,000 times. I didn't hear anything like, we need to run it back, or I want a rematch. How do you get beaten like that and be asking for an Anthony Joshua fight? Since when do fighters get beaten, whether he thinks he lost or not, and don't want to run the fight back? When Joshua lost to Ruiz, did we hear Wilder saying we still need to make this fight between me and Joshua? No. But he loses to Parker, and Joshua has to break his back to make the fight. The obsession between the LDBC, Deontay Wilder, and Anthony Joshua is unhealthy. They're not even acknowledging the Parker loss. They just want to go on as normal, like it never happened. Oh, I don't mind losing to Joseph Parker. We need to fight Joshua. Fuck Parker. Not addressing anything he did that was technically deficient, physically deficient, nothing at all. Not interested at all. Just this unhealthy obsession with Anthony Joshua, which is bordering on creepy right now. But here's the thing. Wilder and Malik went over there for the dough. I've already explained the theory on that. Malik gave it away in the Fight Hype interview. Wilder wasn't planning to fight this year. The Saudi bag lured him into the ring against Joseph Parker, who Malik said ideally we wouldn't have took that fight without a few tune-ups, but the Saudis came through like they do, meaning the bag is what got Wilder in the ring, unprepared. Probably thought he could have beat Parker at 50%, he found out he couldn't, but he doesn't have the humility to admit, okay, even if he believes it was close, the decision went against him and a lot of people think he lost. He needs to run it back. He's not even there. Why doesn't he want to fight Joseph Parker? I'm not saying Parker needs to take the fight because he washed Wilder on the scorecards. But that would be the fight he would be calling for. Because he's in denial. He still thinks that he's as relevant as Anthony Joshua right now. Joshua has won 3 fights this year. He's the leading contender in the world. Yeah? But he can't deal with the reality that the gap between him and Joshua is lengthening. Even if Joshua didn't beat Wilder and it was Parker who did it, the gap is lengthening. 1 win in his last 4 fights. 1 win in his last 4. And his fans can't deal with that. They hate Anthony Joshua. So the fact that Joshua is being spoke about as a potential world title challenger, whether it's for the vacant IBF belt, if it goes vacant after Fury and Usyk fight, a potential challenger for the winner of Usyk and Fury, they don't like that, and their name isn't being mentioned in there. And Joshua is also perhaps Wilder's last link to that Saudi money, and he knows he blew the bag. He knows he blew it. They say if you stay ready, you don't need to get ready. And Wilder knew if he didn't take the Parker fight, the Saudis and the rest of the world would be looking at him like, yo, you should be in shape. What are you doing all this time? You've been out the ring. You're not training? That's what they'd be asking. And the fact he's trying to deflect from what happened on Saturday and turning it onto Anthony Joshua being cowardly, when Anthony Joshua signed to a 2-fight deal on the proviso that both of them won and he lost. He's a strange guy. Where's the humility? Okay, I don't agree with the score cards, but I need to run it back. He's in denial that the Parker fight ended how it ended. He's in denial. And he's not going to get the same type of money that he got for the first Parker fight. So he doesn't want to go into camp for that. He can't get motivated for that. I believe he was probably 60% on Saturday. I'm not saying Parker was 100. Don't know. But Parker definitely dedicated his camp to the fight more than Wilder did. Parker approached it like last chance saloon. And that was the only way to approach it. You saw AJ's focus all the way through the camp. He wasn't talking about Jarrell Miller and Deontay Wilder like they were talking about him, and they both lost. They both lost. Talking about AJ, blah, 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 blah. And, yeah, he thought he could beat Parker at 60, 50%, and he couldn't. He knows he has to be at 100 to beat him, but he doesn't want to do all that training, knowing full well that Parker would beat him again. Because he can't motivate himself to do that because of his obsession with Anthony Joshua. Whether the Wilder fans or Wilder likes it or not, currently AJ and himself are going in two different directions. AJ is in his early 30s, Wilder is in his late 30s, and doesn't look like he's improving. AJ's maturing, he's focused, he was so focused through this camp. I don't think all this propaganda that he's ducking fights is affecting him no more. So Wilder can keep screaming he doesn't want to fight, like, why would Anthony Joshua be scared of Wilder after that performance there? Why would the Saudis just give Wilder the bag like that? Why would boxing fans and boxing media outside of the LDBC accept Wilder just getting the bag like that without working his way back into contention? He's not even asking for the Parker rematch. He's not even acknowledging the defeat. I'm still a better fighter than Parker. I deserve more opportunities than Parker. Why wouldn't Parker get the rematch rather than Wilder get the fight at this stage here? There's other contenders out there, and it's really selfish as well from Wilder and his fans. But you get that impression from them that they really don't care about boxing apart from Wilder and Errol Spence and maybe a couple other fighters. They just don't care. It all has to go their way, even when they lose. It all has to go their way. Like, no disrespect to Lyndon Arthur, but he wasn't in the same caliber as Bivol. Neither was Ellis Zorro. No disrespect to neither of them. Glad they came out safe. Glad they're getting their money. Mark Demore, no disrespect, shouldn't have been in the ring with Filip Hrgovic. They did their best. But the likes of Ajit Kabayel was an underdog against the Russian Lion, Arslanbek Makhmudov, who's 18-0 with 17 knockouts. Kabayel himself was 23-0 with 15 knockouts. Well, he raised that to 24-0 with 16 knockouts. And TKO'd Makhmudov in the 4th round. And he impressed a lot of people. Probably not the Wilder fans, because it's all about Deontay. It's all about Errol Spence and PBC fighters. This guy spars Anthony Joshua, Kabayel. He deserves some of the headlines, but unfortunately, Wilder, very insecure, especially in the presence of Anthony Joshua, is an attention seeker. He's like a girl. Now, that sounds disrespectful, but he does act like a girl. Attention seeking. Because he can't get his own way. There was this theory that it was AJ who wanted to fight Wallin rather than fight Wilder straight away. But didn't Malik say ideally they would prefer a couple of tune-ups before they fight Joseph Parker? So unless they're saying that Parker is better than Anthony Joshua, who Joshua beat, how much confidence would they have been going into an Anthony Joshua fight scheduled for Saturday gone?
It took away the Wilder payday. Parker did him a favor, because if Wilder hits Joshua on the chin, it's a lot different than Whelan hitting him. Who knows?
For sure.
Who knows what would have happened? That was still a risky fight, even though Parker beat him and took him apart the way he did. Credit to Parker, credit to his trainer, Andy Lee, for having a great fight plan and executing it. But if Joshua's in there with Wilder, I'm sure that they're relieved in a quiet way. They never admit it. But they don't have to take that risk. They don't have to take that risk. They don't have to face that hydrogen bomb possibly exploding in their face.
Teddy, like a lot of Americans, has it in his head that Joshua just sits around petrified of American fighters or whatever fighters all day. And Joshua appears to be getting tougher skin and not so concerned about what they're saying, though, these days. And that can only be a positive for him. And whether Teddy believes that Joshua was grateful he didn't have to fight the great Deontay Wilder. You can't prove it, and it's irrelevant because Joshua was signed to fight him twice on the proviso that both of them won. Wilder saying that Joshua was going to walk away from the fight anyway, even though he's signed to fight him twice. And from what I'm hearing, they were going to announce Joshua Wilder for the 9th of March 2024 if both of them won. But someone didn't do their job. But that's AJ's fault. All the burden of doubt is still on AJ from certain parties in America. It's just crazy. You know, I was listening to Hatman. I'm not getting at Hatman. I was listening to Hatman's video. Yeah, and if I didn't value what he said, I wouldn't repeat what he said. He said he doesn't necessarily think that AJ was relieved that Wilder lost because he didn't have to fight him, but because he didn't like him. It is plausible. It is plausible. But Wilder's saying that AJ was happy that he lost. Does he have a receipt or testimony of some kind of video footage where AJ was celebrating Wilder losing, like Wilder was celebrating Jarrell Miller losing to Daniel Dubois? No, they don't. I remember Deontay Wilder telling Andy Ruiz there's ways out of the rematch clause with Anthony Joshua. He didn't want Joshua to get his rematch. And I was bitching about this. Listen, what you reap you sow. Now, I'm putting AJ's performance down to his dedication and grit, fighting 3 times this year, staying in the training camp, walking through the criticism, and putting it all together for this fight here. And obviously, styles make fights as well. He sparred with Wallin. I've heard a lot of people saying, Wilder fans saying that Wallin is a sparring partner, AJ's fighting a sparring partner. Well, Helenius was a sparring partner when Wilder fought him. His only win in, 4 years or something like that. Now, the denial and the deflection is only going to hinder Wilder's career if he says he's to continue fighting. And here's why. 39 years of age. 1 win in his last 4 fights. You know, when his only loss was to Tyson Fury, you know, he could say, oh, I lost against the great Tyson Fury. And I'm being a bit sarcastic when I say that. But now you're losing to Joseph Parker. And this is second best opponent. Wilder has to tread very carefully from now. Somehow he's going to have to get rid of this unhealthy obsession and jealousy of Anthony Joshua, or it's just going to destroy him at this point. If he's not back in the ring by March, at the latest, let's say June next year, stick a fork in him. If he's not prepared to humble himself and go through the hard training to get himself back into contention and not just be looking for an Anthony Joshua lifeline to get the Saudi money, it's a wrap. It's a wrap at this point. Now, I was happy Wilder lost. I was glad Parker won. And as for Wilder and his fans, I don't really care if you think, well, you're only saying that because you didn't want him to knock Joshua out. Who cares? No one could be more biased and unrealistic in their assessments on boxing than them. Why do I care what they think? I'm glad he lost. They was all glad when AJ lost to Ruiz, and so was Wilder. The Ring Magazine have pushed him down to 9th from 2nd place, and Joshua's took his spot. Joshua just behind Tyson Fury. USEC, Ring Magazine champion, because Tyson Fury said he didn't want the title. Wilder and Jarrell Miller, and before I carry on, Wilder was laughing, or at least he was celebrating when Miller got knocked out by Daniel Dubois. The 2 American heavyweights, who were both defeated on the Day of Reckoning card, neither of them were prepared for the 6 weeks they had to prep for their fights. Neither of them. Like Miller's trainer was saying the weight affected him. Well, of course it did. And the fact that he couldn't take no artificial aids to help that weight loss, yeah, he was in a bag of trouble. And he's not going to find that weight easy to shift without PEDs. And weird enough, like, Miller was too heavy according to his coach. I heard somewhere that Mr. James Ali Bashir saw Wilder at the weigh-in and he was putting weights and stuff in his pocket. So he might not actually weigh 213. The man is literally a cruiserweight if this is the case. And he's obviously not getting the right nutrition or eating correctly if this is the case. And he needs to fix himself up. He's a mess right now. He's a mess. All this Hayoshka, all that stuff the dialogue between him and his wife about semen, donuts, and fellatio on his uncle and stuff, his mind is perhaps not where it should be. Some of the rambling he was doing in the build up to this fight, just rambling and
you're rattling on and ain't saying nothing.
Anyway, like, they're just a sad reflection of heavyweight boxing in America. When you think of all the greats they've had, it's pitiful, really. Full of excuses, talk a lot, don't deliver, squander opportunities, but it's always someone else's fault. And that's just the way I see it. To be fair, on Miller, he didn't make no excuses when he lost to Daniel. Now, perhaps if AJ had beat his ass, he wouldn't be so humble. I don't think he'd be able to live that one down. But he didn't make no excuses. Just Wilder. And Shelley Finkel talking about some cryo chamber.